Hey, what's up? It's Andy Blanks again from Youth Ministry 360 with another teacher prep video from our Threads Bible study curriculum. This teacher prep video is for lesson 21. Now, this is going to be a challenging lesson, I think. So you're going to have to really, be on your game here. But we're going to help you out. We'll give you everything you need to succeed, so it'll be great. But what you're kind of doing is we're to that point in the story where we've walked through the height of David and the height of Solomon, the rise and fall of Solomon. And now we're going to look at the idea of the divided kingdom. And this is where Israel really kind of goes off the rails. And so we're going to have to give you a lot of, not a lot, but we're going to give you some sort of bulleted points and things to say to kind of help you fill in the background of what's going on, just to make sure your kids kind of grasp what's happening. But you're going to be looking at the moment where Rehoboam, so Solomon has two sons, Rehoboam and Jeroboam. And you're going to be looking at the moment where Rehoboam kind of makes a really horrible mistake about how he is exerting his authority, and it really sort of starts or really sort of concretes or cements the split that Israel, the nation of Israel, is kind of already undergoing at this point. The quick story is Jeroboam has left Israel and is in Egypt, and he hears about Solomon's death, and he comes back, and Rehoboam has a chance to really provide leadership for all of Israel. The Israelites came to him and they ask him how, more or less they're kind of asking how he's going to rule. And he has an opportunity to kind of humble himself and listen to the counsel of some very wise individuals in his life. And he doesn't. He listens to some voices in his life that are immature and very unwise. And it results in creating this really huge rift that basically, and we're going to help you explain this, but you basically get, of the 12 tribes of Israel, you get 10 tribes who form the northern kingdom of Israel, and then 2 tribes that form the southern kingdom of Judah. And it's from this point on, this is the split in the kingdom of Israel. There's never a whole nation again during really sort of the biblical narrative until Christ comes, which is about 1,000 years, maybe a little less than 1,000 years later. And so you're going to help your students kind of get the context of this, but you're going to help them see what it looks like when sort of pride and arrogance sort of enter into an authoritative relationship, right? Like what it looks like to rule and exert your authority in a prideful and arrogant way. Now we're going to contrast. So that's our narrative. Remember, we're kind of we're advancing this story of the Bible, and then we're weaving through the thread of the gospel. We're going to contrast Rehoboam's sort of, again, prideful and arrogant rule with the rule of Christ. And we're going to do that by looking at Matthew 11, which is really one of my favorite passages of Scripture, where Jesus says, it talks about, bringing our burdens to Him, that we would, all of us who are weary and burdened could come to Christ and lay our burdens on Him. And then Jesus speaks in this language of authority. He says, take my yoke upon you, for my load is easy, my burden's light. And it's just this idea that the image there is ox or oxen being having a yoke, and that's how you would, if you're plowing a field with an ox, you would put this yoke on them, and that's how you would direct them, with reins. Or if they were pulling a cart, you would put this wooden yoke on them, and that's how you would really exert your authority over ox or donkey or something like that. What Jesus is saying is, my authority is light. My authority, it's a paradox. It's a great Christian paradox that when we surrender to Jesus' authority, the burden of His rule over us it's freedom. That's the paradox. We surrender and we gain everything. And that's what we want your students to see. It's the exact opposite of the type of rule that Rehoboam demonstrated that caused this horrible rift in Israel that really honestly in some ways was never really repaired during the biblical narrative. And so anyway, that's kind of how we're kind of setting up the narrative in the gospel. Now, the application of this is that we want your students to think about what it means to bring their burdens to Christ. That's what Jesus sort of is initially saying in Matthew 11, that is, if we're wearied, if we're burdened by sin, bring those burdens to Him, and He'll take the weight of those burdens off of us. It's a beautiful, beautiful message. We're going to help your students practically sort of flesh out what that means in their lives. And then hopefully it will lead to, if any of your students are really struggling with anything in their life, the weight of their sin or the weight of sort of circumstances, that they'll look to Christ for that source of peace and rest that only Jesus can perfectly offer. So it's a good lesson. It's a great lesson, especially that gospel thread is such a powerful. Matthew 11 is a great passage. But if you have any questions on teaching it or any questions about the curriculum in general, please let us hear from you. We're happy to help. Hope your lesson goes great, and I will see you on the next Teacher Prep video.